and participating in a demonstration outside as well. So that was a good day in Kansas. I'd also like to say before I begin that I've been one of the participants in many hours of phone calls, conference phone calls, planning many details of this. Okay. It's been a very good interactive work experience of Sierra Club members on the calls and occupiers on the calls from Kansas City, Wichita, Columbia, Lawrence, Topeka, I think, and Oklahoma, and as well as other community organizations, which I won't try to start listing, but all in all, I think it's been a very good example of how organizations like the Sierra Club can work in harmony and cooperation with occupiers of our localities to pursue our common agendas. So I think I'll begin now, and it looks like I already got my button pushed here. So, a wise statement was made a while back by, and I'm trying to pick out where's the best place to stand as I proceed here. I'll try out this, I suppose, if it clicks right. There was a governor who said, we need to put controls on a coal-powered plant. The controls may reduce jobs, but I will not create jobs that kill people. And that was Mitt Romney, governor of Massachusetts back then.
I can't hear or understand anything you're saying. I don't know what's wrong with the microphone, but I think others are experiencing that too.
Almost not your mouth.
Oh, okay. I seem to recall I tend to wave my hand around here. I'll have to consciously work on that. Okay, so you can read what I've been saying. Governor Romney back then thought that jobs should not exist if they were going to kill people. Well, the greenhouse effect is something that is a danger as well. And I'll move rather quickly through this. You will not be able to read any of the detail of this because I expanded it some to fill the screen. But the main idea here is these arrows over here. The heat from energy from the sun comes down and warms the earth, and then some of that heat radiates out away from the earth and goes on out into space. However, there's always been a characteristic of our atmosphere that some of it gets turned back by the atmosphere and is retained in the atmosphere. So I know this is pretty basic, but since some people are denying global warming, it seems that we do need to feel aware that we have a strong basis for this. And oxygen and nitrogen are stable molecules. They are not going to intercept this energy that's going out away from the Earth. But it's the complex, more large and complex molecules like carbon dioxide, which tend to vibrate or tumble, and that makes the energy stay within the atmosphere. So the Earth is warming. And according to James Hansen, in his book, Storms of My Grandchildren, what has been observed so far is that there's been a warming of about 1 degree Fahrenheit. So what's to get excited about, 1 degree? Well, of course, they're saying that the numbers are going to become larger and larger. And one of the things that's happening is that the energy is, due to the circulation in the air and in the ocean, it is taking that energy toward the North Pole and the South Pole. And we're seeing the reduction of the ice caps. And that is tending to speed up global warming. It's called positive feedback, because as the Arctic tundra thaws, methane gas is escaping. Methane gas is a more complex molecule, and so it is intercepting outgoing infrared energy even better than the carbon dioxide does, and that is making global warming go faster and faster. Well, if you read Bill McKibben's book, Earth, there are many effects that we are already seeing. In 2007, the heat was bad enough that it was stressing humans and it was stunning crops. Warmer air is holding more moisture, and so the thunderstorms rise higher into the high atmosphere, and the storms are more intense. And like the hurricane that moved up into Vermont and New Hampshire, it tended to wash out a lot of roads. And so that's going to cause big expenses. Are you hearing me okay now, by the way? I think I'm okay. He also observes that in the ocean, we are seeing a decline in diversity because jellyfish are becoming more and more dominant, crowding out diversity of species which are important to us. Well, tar sands have a significant impact. The production of tar sands, digging up, and then they dig up the tar sands and then they heat it with gas to make it more, to reduce it to a stage where they can put it into the pipeline and transport it. James Hansen has said that for the climate, the game is over if tar sands in Canada scale up to the full production that they contemplate. So his organization, 350.org, has done the tar sands action, and I went to Washington twice, once to be arrested, and again later on, November 6th, to dramatize the importance of stopping the oil sands pipeline, because really every pipeline is an important part of the collective impact of oil production, and it is the collective impact of oil production that is driving this global warming, which we know is having severe consequences, and they will grow increasingly severe. So, oil and transportation go together. Transportation is growing quickly. It uses up nearly 30% of our global use of energy, and it uses 95% of the global oil consumption. Of course, some of it goes to heat buildings as well. Tar sands production, I heard a good metaphor stated in Topeka by someone speaking up there. It's compared to our use of our production from oils from tar sands can be compared to an alcoholic who's running low on alcohol to drink, so he goes into the bar room, rips up the carpet, wrings it out to get some drops of alcohol to drink that. Well, you're pretty far along in your addiction to oil if you start to harvest oils to produce the oil sands. So, what is happening with climate science? If we would really shift toward the use of solar power and wind energy to develop energy for our grids, and if we then use our electricity grids to put power into our cars, there'd be a lot less oil. There'd be a lot less oil consumed. There'd be a lot less oil profits. So, what do the oil companies think about that? Well, they are looking at how to prevent. It would appear they are looking at how to prevent that trend from happening. So Frank Lutz is a consultant who has provided a lot of help to the Republican Party, and he says you need to you need to make the lack of scientific certainty an important issue to the public. So, there's a writer named Monbiot, I think, who writes for The Guardian, and he has a book called Heat, and he is referred to the denial industry. Exxon has been one of the big funders of spreading the money around so that there are many different entities, all of whom are saying the same thing, which is a questioning of the science of global warming. And according to a report of Greenpeace, and this comes from, this was recently cited by our executive director, Michael Brune of the Sierra Club, referred to this Greenpeace report that shows that among the oil industry funders is the Koch industrial group, which gave money even surpassing, according to this information, even surpassing what Exxon has given to fight legislation related to climate change. And of course that can take a lot of forms, which probably will be referred to later on in later presentations. All of this is happening despite the fact that there is an ever-growing consensus among scientists that global warming is increasing due to human activity. And that was acknowledged by Bill Riley, who was head of the EPA during George W. Bush's administration. He said that 11 national academies of sciences say there's a consensus about global warming, and that includes the National Academy of Science of the United States. All of this raising of doubt about the science of global warming has had its result. In the fall of 2008, 71% of the public believed that global warming was going on, and that 57% believed that humans were causing it. By the fall of 2010, it was down to 57%. Still a majority, but a smaller majority, who believe that global warming is happening, and less than half believe that humans are the cause of it. And of course, there have been other factors that have affected that trend as well. The recession, making people more concerned about the status quo of technology, which is said to be essential to reviving jobs. Of course, not everyone is saying that. President Obama is saying that if we expand the clean energy, that's going to be a lot of jobs. Well, the rise of the Tea Party was part of this shift of causing this shift of attitudes as well. And the mainstream media, which back prior to 2008 was saying a lot about the science of global warming, there's been a sharp decline in their coverage of it. And there's been a lot of campaign contributions and a lot of ads about let's keep our energy going just like we're doing from the fossil fuel industry. So there's been a lot of pressure on politicians. Back in 2008, Romney Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich and Speaker Boehner all believed that there was human-caused climate change. But then, during the next couple of years, there were heavy political contributions from the oil and gas industries, mostly to Republicans, not entirely. And according to one article I found in my research, and by the way, all of these, I have sources cited in the notes portion of these slides. The file is going to be available eventually, I think, through our webpage. I'm certainly willing, anybody who emails me, I'm willing to pass it along. So, with documentation and sources for all of this. There's an organization called Americans for Prosperity, which, according to an article in the New Yorker magazine, was started by David Koch in 2004. The president of it, his name is Phillips, as I recall, admitted that his group threatened politicians with political peril if they played footsie with green solutions. So there's a lot more questioning now of green solutions, which were seriously worked on by people from both parties in 2008 and prior. In this New Yorker article that I've referred to, it's by Jane Mayer, I think was the author. There's a woman named Peggy Venable, who's been a long-time political operative who, at least at the time of the article, drew a salary from Americans for Prosperity and has worked for Koch-funded political groups since 1994. And she said, as a coach, there certainly are people, David's the chairman of our board, I've certainly met with them. So there is the Koch connection with this Americans for Prosperity, of which brags of all the pressure that they are putting on politicians to move away from green solutions to our climate situation. Well, another development which is also troubling is what's happening to education. We all know that for many years there's been a controversy about about teaching evolution and another theory referred to as creation science. And so that's been a well-funded effort to influence education. Well, there's a similar effort going on to muddy the waters about climate change and global warming. Due to pressure from people who oppose the global warming theory, some states have introduced education standards requiring teachers to teach that climate change denial is a valid scientific position. And Texas and Louisiana, I recall, is a couple of the states that are doing this, but generally it's states in the South and regions where livelihoods have been built on extractive industries, extraction of fossil fuels. So this then is and this would be teaching of science at the junior high level, and it would also be about teaching of science in environmental science courses that would be electives in the high schools. By the way, I'm not watching my clock much, so if anybody thinks I need to give me a fast wave or something, if I need to speed up a little. Okay. So, the impact of this, you see, can be to, not only do you have pressure on the politicians to disregard global warming, but now there's pressure on what children will be learning and what they'll be telling their families about and so on, trying to increase the public uncertainty about global warming. There's been some news that's come out during the past week. There were some documents which apparently were leaked by someone who, and these were documents from an organization called the Heartland Institute about their plans. And their plan is to try to help out on this teaching in the schools against global warming, climate science theory. They, according to these documents, and by the way, this was on a, where did it appear? Where were these documents talked about? Well, one place was on a Progressive Change website. They also were referred to in a February 15th blog entry on the Economist magazine's blog. Now, I used to subscribe to the Economist magazine. Probably some others of you do too. It's a quite well regarded and influential news magazine. And they have said something about this on their blog. Heartland Institute is hoping that the Charles Koch Foundation will, which did contribute in 2011, according to the documents, they hope that they will ramp up their contributions even larger in 2012 and gain access to the network of philanthropists they work with. One of the things that they are planning on is there's a fellow who used to work for the Department of Energy named David Wojak, and it is contemplated that this Heartland Institute would engage him to produce teaching materials designed to spread climate change skepticism. So, with all of the media action here in Wichita, I hope that this is something that the local media will be giving some attention to as well. So how do we, when we take this global warming danger seriously, how do we face up to it? In 2005, the Sierra Club decided that global warming and energy policy needed to be the most urgent strategic objective to deal with. And since that time, we have been trying to address global warming with smart energy solutions affecting energy policy. And as we are working with occupiers, some of us who discuss the occupier movement on our Sierra web pages, some of us have observed that typically the environment is among the top 5 issues which are discussed at many of the global warming general assemblies and their conferences. So we have that overlap of concerns. So the question for 2012 is how much can the occupiers help us to get climate and energy policy up higher on the national agenda? Those percentages we looked at a few years ago, where we're down to 57% that think global warming is a big important thing that's happening. If occupiers have a really active year and continue to think this is very important, maybe that percentage will increase, because we've seen how big an influence the occupier movement already has had regarding matters like income inequality. Well, I think I'll move along here a little quicker now. Just making people fear global warming is not itself a good persuasion tactic. Instead, attention and focus needs to go to talking about particular policy steps that can help to reduce the global warming problem. So, saving energy not only helps the environment, but it helps our budget. And clean energy jobs not only will help the energy situation, but they will help the job situation too. By the way, the green paper that is in your materials has plenty of sources in it one of which is a Cornell University study which has really debunked a lot of the claims that have been made about how many jobs would result from the tar sands pipelines. Because it's big technology that harvests oil and harvests coal, a few people operating those big machines and the pipeline dials. Where a lot of hands can be put to work is in installing solar panels on homes and doing things to make homes efficient and so on. According to recent reports, majorities of the public still support our issues. They are supportive of research into, I should have said, renewable energy sources, and they're also supportive of tax rebates for people who are buying energy-efficient vehicles and solar panels. And those numbers, just quoted, even included Tea Party. But if you leave out the Tea Partiers, there's still a majority of all the rest of the sectors of our political world. A majority believe that we should be requiring utilities to produce 20% of their electricity from renewable energy, even if it does raise household bills $100 a year. So there is still some public sympathy there to work with if we work harder and with new creativity about how to rally the public. So the immediate task for Sierra Club and for occupiers and for all those other organizations that are part of the environmental portfolio of organizations, we need, of course, to get President Obama re-elected because even though he has not done all that has been hoped for, he's had a tough Congress to work with. And if we can elect a Congress and state legislators who will get renewable energy and efficiency going, that's how we deal with the problem. And the other task for us, which is going to be talked about by the next speaker, is about a constitutional amendment to reverse the Citizens United decision. Because until that gets done, the corporate donors are going to have the public, with all of their super PACs and anonymous donations and so on, they're going to have the politicians, they're going to have their foot on the necks of the politicians. And that's a hard situation to get things improved with. I believe that's my last slide. Yes, I'll stop with that. And are there any quick comments or questions that need to be addressed?
Yeah, I was impressed with the parallels between how the tobacco industry